Well, guys, today our meeting will be a bit different. We'll go through slides and talk about a bit of SQL or SQL and how we can integrate it with Java, going from JDBC to the Spring JPA. So, nice break is just to understand you guys levels of SQL. Do you know if you ever worked with relational databases or if it's your first time? So, Lorenzo, can we talk about briefly just to
Yeah,
include recording?
I, yeah, I worked my since the start of my career with SQL, so I have a good knowledge about it. Probably is the language I know most. I don't know if it's really a language, but it's the yeah. I think I can call it like a language. So I I I have a good knowledge about it.
Great. So, Renato, what about you? Could you just talking about briefly of your experience with SQL, just including the recording?
About SQL, um I I have I have been working with SQL before in some projects. I think it's very common to use SQL in many projects. For example, I work as a Java developer, but I have experiences with SQL. Okay, I'm thinking many developers work with SQL. I think it's normal for me.
Neat. Ricardo, what about you, mate?
I I don't have much experience with SQL. I know the basics and
So,
know how to find my ways around it. Just
neat.
scratching the surface.
Perfect. So, as you might know, SQL or SQL is an acronym for Structured Query Language for database communications, and it does follow a standard which is called SQL ISO or SQL NZ. Uh, for example, we can execute a select statement in SQL Server, which is the Microsoft RDBMS, and the same select query would work in at Oracle and for MySQL as well. But for example, if we go a bit down in the rabbit hole and have the hole, which for example use PLSQL, which is an Oracle feature, a more robust SQL part, let's call that way. It will only work in Oracle and will not work at SQL Server. And the same if we try to run TSQL, it will just work on Microsoft SQL RDBMS and vice versa. So it's the SQL. It's used to manage, storing, retrieving, and managing data. And what are RDBMSs? Well, we talked about SQL before. RDBMS is another acronym which is called for Relational Database Management Systems, as we discussed. HT, for example, is RDBMS and in-memory implementation, but still following the SQL structure. We do have MySQL, MariaDB, Cbase, which is pretty old, the IBM's DB2, Oracle, Postgres, and we could be here the whole night because there are many RDBMSs. They are the actual software for working with SQL. So I know Renato told us before they worked with Oracle and H2, so I would like to hear about you, Lorenzo and Ricardo. Have you worked with a different RDBMS before instead of H2, like for example Postgres or even SQL Server?
Yeah, I work with Postgres as well in a smaller application, so we don't have all the features. I don't know if Postgres can or could have the all the features that Oracle has because like working with Oracle, we can even send emails, we can download data, we can make uh, Excel files, we can do a lot of things. Uh, I don't know if we can build a, a interface with Oracle. I think we can't, but it's very huge. So in this application, we work with Postgres. It's very smaller, so we have less features. We just have like some basic triggers and tables and some basic functions. So it's not like when we work with Oracle that it's like huge. It's a very big uh, RDBMS. So yeah, I have worked with Postgres, but I have less experience with it.
Understood. You talk about interfaces in Oracle. You by interface you mean like a graphical user interface like Java Swing?
Yeah, I think because there is so many features inside the Oracle that I didn't know. I don't disbelieve that this could happen, but I don't know.
Actually, there it is. Not in Oracle per se, but using PLSQL. It's a legacy tool called Oracle Forms and Report. It
So,
really, it is really interesting to say the least. So it really worth the time to take a look at in another time. So what about you, Ricardo? Any experience with another MMS before?
I've worked with Oracle and MySQL.
Nice. Uh, so talking about CRUD operations in SQL, which are the DML, data manipulation languages, as you can read in some other lectures. To insert, it's pretty simple. We just to create the create operation is pretty simple. We just perform an insert into the table name and the column value we would like to perform. Read is just a simple select. On the same line is along. I don't know if I can select a line. No, I cannot. But you guys can see my mouse, right? Moving from left
Yeah.
to right. So just the select operator, the table name, so the column name, the table name, the from clause, the table name, and a condition. For example, where the ID, which sometimes is just the primary key, which will match one. So instead of scanning the whole database and the whole table actually, and returning everything, we just return a specific record and a specific column for it. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. We have the update, which again use the keyword update, the table, G's, the table, the operator, what we would like to set, the column, new value, which in this case is the name, the value we would like to pass, Alex Smith, and pass in a key. For God's sake, never ever do update, neither delete without the where clause. Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, it's
And
classic.
throw the first rock if you guys have never done this before. I don't because it's a classic for every
I think
developer.
I didn't do this in production, but
No,
of course
that's the part. Never doing the production. If it's a homologation or a test, okay, we
probably I did it in development database. But yeah,
I never did.
lucky one because a friend of mine once did in production.
I think it's very
Ish.
common to use these operations in your applications. It's famous CRUD, okay? When um, when you are developing applications with Java and Spring Boot, and it's common to use these operations: create, read, update, and delete.
Yep. In the SQL world, we call it DML, data manipulation language. But just to make it, I had no idea was the level of you guys about SQL. So I decided to use the acronyms, which is more accessible. So here it is. And
Yeah.
finally, talking about the delete.
But
Oh,
can I
sorry.
ask you something, John? John,
Sure,
uh,
thing, mate. Go ahead.
you were talking about your friend that did this update in production.
It
What?
actually was not an update. It was a delete.
Have you already created delete without where?
Yeah, he did it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So was he fired?
Nope, because we had he was a junior,
Delete without
and we had to
where
pick up, and we had to pick up, pick
Oh,
up, pick up. That's why.
or
But
update in
uh, so
production.
sorry. So sorry, Nato. Could you repeat, please?
Uh, have you already create a delete operations without where?
Yes, but it was in a controlled environment because we know that we had to clean the table. We could do
Or
with delete, or there is another command called truncate, which is quite faster. But just in this scenario, so just to as guys continuing, and there is the delete update, delete command as we were talking about, the delete keyword from point to the table and the where condition. So it's called auto explaining to delete data. Please, once again, use the where condition and, if possible, envelop it in a transaction.
it's not
And
recommended to use delete without conditions,
exactly.
yeah.
right?
Yeah, right. Never do it. In Java with GPA, we have the transactional keyword, for example. If something goes wrong during our insert, update, or delete, which is one of the DML operations, that the framework would tell the database, hey, you can roll back because it had an error, for example. But in a scenario without it, it can be problematic. And if we are writing raw SQL, which in the JDBC case we are, it's important to envelope it in a transactional block. I know that in SQL Server we can like open a transaction and then close. I have no idea how we can do it in Postgres. MySQL actually I don't know, but it's a bit verbose. But anywho, so talking about JDBC, um, Java Database Connector. It's a low-level API and pretty uh, hard to work with in today's
Yeah.
standards. As we need to open a connection, close a connection, or try resources, point to the driver, and working sometimes with the DAO pattern, the data access object, just to
Yeah.
try to make it a bit less painful.
Create a pool of connections and didn't exceed this. It's very, very shit. But sorry.
Exactly. No problems whatsoever. You guys can interrupt me anytime to raise points and ask questions. So it was the first approach that we had in the Java world before the concept of object relational mapping, the ORMs. So as we talked before, it's very verbose, and there is some key pieces to include like driver, connection, statement, result set, the connection pools as Lorenzo commented. So in a short period of time, we will see an example using JDBC. But have you ever worked with? I guess Renato and Lorenzo worked. But what about you, my friend? That I forgot the name because I'm feeling so freaking tired.
Ricardo.
Ricardo.
Ricardo, guys, I'm so sorry, man. I'm feeling so tired. So that's why I'm forgetting the basics. Have you ever worked with JDBC or just went straight ahead to Spring JPA?
I work with the JDBC too.
No, so neat. So I
I
guess
already
everyone felt the
with
pain once in the life with working with it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking
So
many developers prefer to work with frameworks.
nah,
With
definitely,
API frameworks is better than JDBC.
Yeah. I agree.
definitely. Especially that in the Spring World we have like the JPQL, we can where we can write
Yeah.
our own queries, but without the verbosity of open close connection from JDBC. So
But I recommend if you are learning SQL, is better to use JDBC
definitely,
at the first, yeah.
yeah,
And also
definitely because you will be
because
forced to use the raw
you can
SQL.
yeah, you can write SQL script, okay, with framework. If you don't have the opportunities to write scripts, SQL, I think it's better to use JDBC at the first.
You were talking about, João, about JPQL. I think this is the most, this is the, this is the worst bullshit they ever created because, mate, for what reason did you create another kind of SQL to use just inside of Java? I couldn't understand it until now.
Well, my 15 cents, I would say it's because sometimes working with raw SQL, it's better than relying on a ORM magic code. Sometimes it's easier to manage directly calls from database than like composing objects and
Yeah,
abstractions inside the Java, like working with the Stream API and yada yada. But it's all depends. It's all depends of the scenario.
yeah, yeah, of course.
Well, and as we were talking about before, the magic way or a man. And a new acronyms to our list, our bucket list, called Objective Relational Mapping, and it simplifies the database interaction. We can map the Java objects directly to the database tables effortlessly, and use the class map to user table seamlessly, and access properties like user get name from the name column. So a bit before we go straight ahead to Spring GPA, there is a concept called the hibernate. I guess you guys already heard about it, but I'm not talking about the hibernate from Spring Boot, but the old gold one, which we used XML to configure database connections, database connection pool, column names, and all this kind of stuff. Have you ever guys worked with it before? Like Java 8, Java 7, Java 6, or
Which one
never?
I
It's
use?
also the jar archive.
Ah, it's now archived. I thought it was still relevant. So that's neat to know because I had a college exercise which I had to deal with the old Hibernate, which uses the Java persistent. No, actually the old one is called Jakarta Persistent API. If I'm not mistaken. So if I'm talking BS, so you guys can correct me because I know it had a switch of names like the Jakarta Persistent API and the Java. I don't know which one is the old one.
I think you are right. But yeah, I skipped all this part of technology and I just uh, went straight away to the Spring GPA.
Have you ever worked, Renato, with this approach, with the legacy Hibernate?
Yes, of course. I have been working with Hibernate and JPA. I'm thinking is the better way to have more productions in your applications. Um, when when you can have a frameworks in applications, I think it's better uh, There are many advantages. For example, to have more productions and you 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 don't need to create as many scripts as SQLs, because this framework uh, there are many solutions um, for this problem. Okay.
Definitely. And Ricardo, have you ever worked with the legacy Hibernate? I'm not talking about the Spring JPA. I'm talking the old one, which we had to touch XML file to configure the database connections and all this kind of stuff, or not.
With this summer, I haven't.
That's good. At least you went straight ahead between JDBC and the Spring JPA. So, now that I saw that format, the color format did not apply to this slide, but anywho, uh, Spring JPA. Actually, the JPA in Hibernate, which it should have been in this slide, and I forgot it. We talked in the previous one, but it's more abstraction for our code, as we talked before. And our final boss, or let's say our final ally, the Spring
Yeah,
Data GPA, which is way, I cannot emphasize it enough, and more reliable would not be the correct word for the instance, but more developer experience, user friendly, because it's simple to implement yet powerful. And the goal is to reduce the boilerplate code to almost zero. And as we talked about before in the ORMs, it's magic. You just create a Java interface and Spring Boot provides the implementation at runtime. So extend JPA create repository, for example. That's where it shines. And I guess everyone here, it's the go-to if we can choose a new project. So
oh my
it's your
god.
time. Talk steep. Show me the code. So Linus Torvald, I said it once. So I will just switch now screens because I will open IntelliJ. Just a quick sec. Device's entire screen. So can you guys see my whole screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perfect, guys. Okay. I need to clone the repository because I do not have it in my machine anymore. And as we are approaching 21 or 9 p.m., I would try to go a bit faster. So I will clone it, CD, documents, Java, yeah, maybe Spring. Okay, then the Spring context, but whatever, git clone. So the first approach I'd like to show you guys, it's using the JDBC per C, and I will just start the Docker because I'm using MySQL as a RDBMS and it's
You
inside a
have
Docker
5 minutes.
container. It's okay. We can go just to the JDBC approach, no problem whatsoever. Docker, start, MySQL, and I will open here IntelliJ. Our container is running, and I will just check if I already have the database here as basics, Spring, Postgres, hello, DAO. Choose the project and open. All right, so just to give you guys a perspective of working with JDBC instead of Spring JPA, I was trying at this example to work with a connection factory to make it simpler. But as you can imagine, in the Spring JPA world, we do not have this approach. We can just bind to the applications .property file or the YAML one, which will be way faster. We do not have to get the connection string like this. It's way more simpler. And when we are talking about the operations of the CRUD or the ML, with Spring JPA we have the interface from Extend JPA CRUD interface. Meanwhile, when we are working with JDBC, we have to work with a data access object, which in this case it's mapping to our entity in quotes, which is the alumni class. And it has just simple properties like ID, matrícula, and name, a constructor, and getters and setters, simple stuff. This repair we do not have the notations, it's a raw class. Pojo, plain old Java object. And the connection, and actually the aluno DAO, which implements the connection factory. Just we open a connection and we can implement the query per se from using the JDBC. Open a result set, passing variables as arguments, as the quotation as the quotation marks know I forgot the name of the symbol.
Yeah, Mark.
The question mark. Yep.